Yeah, that's probably what this episode's gonna look like right there. Yeah. The whole like center camera, stable, steady view in the next show you're about to watch died. In fact, it was rough. We had to kill the whole first segment of the show. So what you see our Zoom cam and really editing by guy. We use the close-ups camera for our regular footage, which makes it kind of tough. It hopefully isn't that bad, but the content was so freaking good. The moderators were like really, really, really into the discussion that we actually got a whole after the show kind of thing happening, and we think it's a really great show, and it really examples what we're trying to accomplish with the Art of Dispute and the show. So
needed civil debate, so get ready for it and bear with our production.
It's going to be a lot of fun!
Awesome.
Not to fear, we have a solution. A show where you can learn the art of dispute. Filmed under the glorious technicolor of rainbows and rifles, with a cast of teddy bears armed with switchblades. Where both the opinions and the adult beverages are strong. Tune in, turn on, and comment your giddy hearts out. We're going live in
3, 2, 1, action!
Welcome back to The Art of Dispute. I am your co-host, Chris Minamyer, and we are in discussion. We have a special edition for you today. Right now we have all our moderators, a great guest panel, and they are giving us a off-the-cuff topic to go on. So nobody knows the topics, and if you were in the discussion before, you know what's going on. So we're going to go straight to David with his topic, and we're all going to hear it for the first time.
Okay, so we're going right into it now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Dee and I were talking off camera in between segments. It crystallized a kind of the whole purpose of the mission to this show, because what we have is what we're really doing is we're trying to navigate conflicting worldviews and conflicting realities. I mean, it's basically the world as we see it. Some people, you know, when you look at things like what constitutes hate speech and what we ought to do about it, there's one side that says it ought to be regulated and you could be thrown in jail, and the other people are going freedom of speech, and you know, you can say whatever you want, you can offend someone even if it's hateful, you should still be able to say it. You know, so you have these wild extremes coming together. You have people out there who say only people who are in power can be racist, and you know, so yeah, you already know where I'm going. So nowhere have I experienced the level of challenge to my own capabilities in carrying out the mission than introducing this topic. And so I'm going to try to introduce it again, and the moderators, we are going to show you how to do it, right? So the topic is the disparity in how racism is treated as it applies, or in the public view as it applies to white on black versus anyone on white, pretty much, right? And the substantive point I've always tried to make, and I have struggled, it always seems to run across any number of roadblocks. I get immeasurably attacked, called racist, all this other stuff.
Well, that's the nicest thing we call you.
I found it interesting that you can have a group out there whose narrative is there's systemic racism against black people, and especially in the police force, and we get targeted unfairly because we're black. And that's okay to say, whether it's true or not, which is debatable. But when you point out the hard statistics of where racism is being manifested, not saying it's all, being manifested in that, but I'm saying that when you look at the interracial violent crime rates, the overwhelming majority of which is perpetrated by black people and the overwhelming majority of the victims being white, why is that racist to cite that?
And if you want to see those statistics, you did post it in our group, which our group is live right now.
Art of Dispute.
Art of Dispute. So come out to Art of Dispute, search it on your Facebook, you'll find his post, go in and comment on it, because it's a good one.
So here's my question as it relates to that, is how do we navigate being able to point out the hypocrisy in the application of the definition of racism? Talk about a multifaceted topic there, okay? And do you care who we start with? Because we start this way every time. What if we go the opposite way?
I would love to go the opposite way.
I'm looking for sharp items.
Oh, and do we need to close the store?
No, we're good. I think that the country is, and the world for that matter, obviously has a history of discrimination and exploitation of people that are different from one that wants to commit acts of discrimination and exploitation. I guess, what was the question again, David?
How do we address the hypocrisy in the application of the definition of racism?
If there is hypocrisy, then there would be no reason to solve the problem. If there is hypocrisy, if by definition, then you don't want to solve the problem. The people that we are expecting to solve the problem don't want to solve the problem. The people that we expect to solve the problem are up in a distant capital that have everything to say about it and nothing to offer but words. And to solve the problem of racism has to come from the individual.
When you say the people that we want to solve the problem, are you speaking of government?
No, I am talking about you. I'm talking about me.
I'm trying.
I'm talking about everyone here on this panel. I'm talking about everyone who's discussing this on the forum.
I'm glad you brought that up.
It's up to us. Do not rely on people that we elect to office. I may be shooting myself in the foot being a politician on this stuff, but I'm telling you, it's going to have to come from us. The more dependent that we are on people that don't want to do anything but give lip service to the issue are not going to solve it. It's going to be up to us. And what we do is how we live our lives. I don't look at anybody by the color of their skin, where they're from, how much money they make, what job that they have, what kind of car do they drive, what house do they live in. Those kind of label politics are destructive. How long is their beard? How short is their beard? How ugly they are? How beautiful they are? It does not matter. Human interaction bases upon respect from a person's perspective. And if you don't respect that, then we're not going anywhere with this issue. That's my answer for it. So,
well, let me interject before we move on real quick, and it is a clinkable moment.
Thank you. Clink. Everybody gets a clink.
Okay. Here's my point to this, is let's acknowledge that I don't think any of us here is trying to allege that anyone else is racist. I could be wrong about that. But the point is that it's we're trying, as with all things, anytime we talk about a topic, there isn't the need to defend ourselves as we address an evil in the world, right? If we observe a hypocrisy, whatever that hypocrisy is related to, we want to be able to address that hypocrisy. The hypocrisy I'm citing is the hypocrisy in the standards, in the deviating standards of how a definition of racism is applied to one group of people, but not being applied to another, where it's not even being asked.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's
bouncing up in this meeting, ready to go.
I'd love to see that reaction.
I love what you said. I think that's wonderful, and I wholeheartedly agree. I think it has to start with the individual. But I think it's a fine line between that, which is, I love that, and the problem of being colorblind, as people say. And I say that, I think colorblind always comes with the best intentions. But when you don't grow up realizing that there is a difference historically, and there is a difference in what families and communities have faced, or maybe they haven't had at their disposal, and why maybe there's that struggle, why maybe there's that attitude toward law enforcement, why maybe there's that impression or that bias towards white communities if you're in a black community. I think it makes it really hard to put yourself in that person's shoes and understand that's why you're angry, or that's why that sets you off, that's why that upsets you, you know, that kind of thing.
But no, I'm not cutting you off. I want to, because that addresses one side of it. What I'm saying is, the other side of it, that which is the argument I'm trying to present, is that racism can also be being expressed in the black on white violent crime rates. Now I know we don't agree on the statistics, so I don't want to get bogged down in that.
That's fine.
But it is disproportionate. You would agree with that, correct?
I think it's realistic. I mean, the population sizes, it's realistic. If I cut a 14%,
yeah, I want to address that with you. Okay.
There's a pie this big of white people, a pie this big of black people. 14% of this pie is bigger than 40%. I mean, it is what it is. But
doesn't that also work the other way, in terms of attackers versus victims?
Sure, but you and I don't equate racism the same way. That's
no. I'm talking about racism. Okay. You're talking about the pie. You're saying there's a disproportionate number of black on white violent crime because the population of the white race in America is so much greater than the population of the black race.
To match, you'd have to be the entire black population.
But this is my point, if white racism is so rampant as it's so often represented, then doesn't that also mean that there are 5 times as many potential attackers of?
No.
Why? Why does that work one way, not the other?
Racism is not in the form of violent crime. That's not why people are upset.
Okay.
I think we're beyond a lot of that. We don't see the KKK locking doors. My husband has a friend who remembers this. Locking doors with black clubs and burning them down. You don't see that anymore, thank God.
No.
You see a residual bias, a residual stereotype. I don't think that violent crime equates racism.
You don't think there's any element of black on white violent crime that is tied to racism?
Let me ask you something, David. What is the population percentage of black individuals?
13%.
What's the percentage of the white victim pool that's killed by black people? 14%. Does that not line up?
Whoa, good question, sir. I may have to ponder on this one. We'll be right back.
Phil and Derek's Restaurant and Jazz Bar, located in the midst of bustling Midtown in Houston. You'll find a laid-back atmosphere and an ambiance reminiscent of the comfort of your own living room, coupled with the flair, pizzazz, and glitz of live New York-style cabaret entertainment 7 nights a week. Phil and Derek's is not only the ideal restaurant with a great long-standing wine selection, but also with a full bar as well. Phil and Derek's stock and knowledge of wines from France, Spain, Argentina, and more, just to name a few, are the envy of wine connoisseurs far and wide. Phil and Derek's Sunday Brunch was voted best morning after brunch for 3 consecutive years. Come indulge in the ample buffet of omelets, meats, various salads, $3 mimosa carafes, and much, much more. Enjoy delicious foods from the kitchen until midnight. We're equipped with large dining areas, ideal for groups up to 20 in size, whether business or pleasure. Come see all that Phil and Derek's has to offer.
What's the percentage of the white victim pool that's killed by black people? 14%. Does that not line up?
No, it doesn't, because what I'm talking about is with regard to the amount of interracial violent crime. That is a type of crime.
But that again,
Okay.
I know you said that, you've clarified, hold on, is that you're not equating it to racism, which is fine, I agree, we don't know. But if you look at hate crime, things that are deemed and done hate crime, I'm sorry, it doesn't compare.
No,
Honestly,
what I'm saying is, the question isn't being asked. We can't, here's, and then I know you want to jump in.
Clarify your question, I'll try to answer.
We can't have an intelligent discussion about how much black on white violent crime is racially motivated, because the question doesn't get asked in the individual instances. Most of the time when you read a news report about a black on white violent crime, first of all, race isn't even represented in the story. They don't even go down the road of investigating racism. They don't even mention race.
But even go to the 80s, it was all they did.
I'm not going to the 80s. I'm going to right now. Even in the case of the deputy Goforth, who was shot right here in Cypress, Texas, execution style, at a gas station, not more than 3 miles from my house. when I was looking for the suspect at large, because I saw the news break, I'm going, you know, where did this happen? What's going on? I could not get a description of the suspect. I got the color of his truck.
It was politically correct.
That's correct.
I don't think it's politically
and we've also seen in San Francisco, one of the examples cited by Colin Flaherty, who wrote some books on this, but on the BART system, the city council refused to release the videos. These are supposed to be public access. This is the BART. This is the BART transportation system. They refused to release the videos of the crimes that were happening on the BART system because they felt it would present a negative racial implication on a certain segment of the community.
But that's my question. Is it are they holding it back?
Hold on, guys. One of the reasons why they do
I love y'all jumping in though.
One of the reasons why they do not release the videos is because of cross-racial identification. As white people,
Really?
we do not recognize people outside of our race. Period.
That's not what they said.
And that is one of the reasons police do not.
No. I'm talking about I'm
that
the
is
city
one
council.
I know,
and this
but
has happened
that
in numerous other
is
cities.
one of the
What she's saying is
reasons
that
why
you
they
release that video
One at a time.
That is one of the reasons why they do not. We are historically horrid at looking at someone outside of our race. That includes
Is that because we're not racist?
African.
Because
No,
it's hard for us to see that. Like,
It's here.
Wow.
it's in our
It's
brain.
in our brain. It's your amygdala. You respond.
You respond to faces that you were brought up with. We memorize them. It's as an artist.
That's true.
We visually see what we're used to.
I don't doubt your point, but you're
just wait.
Hang on.
Wait a second. It is because we recognize faces that we're used to. It's from growing up in society.
Cultural.
It's cultural. It has nothing to do with racism. That's why when people identify when we're victims, we don't get things right. If they put out black male, dark skin, that's why they
So the entire
Samuel
fourth ward's up.
Jackson
Yeah.
gets identified
That's
every
not what you're
time
looking for,
in a
right.
lineup. They put a famous black person in a lineup on the thing, and they'll identify that as the person that harmed them.
What I'm saying is,
It's
I'm not denying your point, but what I'm saying is, related to the example I gave, it doesn't relate. The purposes, wait a minute, the purposes that they said for not releasing those videos, and this has happened, I just used San Francisco. This has happened in Cleveland, it's happened in St. Louis.
They also
They say
don't
we
want
don't.
to taint the jury pool for the exact same reason.
That's not the reason they're giving. I understand what you're saying, but that's
Right.
not the reason
But
they gave.
So what was the reason they gave?
They didn't want to fuel a negative perception against a certain race of the society.
Do you know
They
why?
didn't want to point out the fact that 60, 70, 80% of the violent crimes happening on those trains are being committed by black males under the age of 30. That represents not 13% of the population. That represents about 4% of the
Do
population.
you
That's a small
want
pool
to
that can change
go
depending where you are.
on a train?
That's not the point.
Okay, wait.
They love this.
Do you
I'm
want
sorry,
to
you guys
go
want
on
this.
a train as a female every time you get on a train and feel fear because there is an African American man sitting here?
Because that's all that's in the news.
Not a systematic
Because that
racism.
is all
Because that's all that's in the
that
news.
person's right. Oh, there. That's all
I see
on the
what your
news.
thing is.
I see what she's saying.
That
too.
is why they don't do that.
But
they
the point
do
is,
not
they
want
don't have
to
the right to.
create a. They
Stigma.
don't
A
want to
stereotype.
get
Because you don't see a white man on a train and think all white men.
And
But
think,
you're
oh my God, that
But
white
hold on.
man's gonna rape
So
me.
this actually brings it to the point that this is actually the crux of the issue right here.
Okay.
Why is it okay that the Black Lives Matter can go around talking about systemic racism using very spurious, specious examples, to say the least? Okay, like hands up, don't shoot. That whole thing was proven to be a fraud. All right.
No, they've done
Okay, we
studies
don't-
on that.
it's
That's
not.
very much not a fraud.
The thing that happened to Michael Brown was a
Yes.
fraud.
Yeah.
The way that
Anybody
that
been
was
arrested?
reported. Yeah.
I'm saying I've been arrested, and it is not a fun process.
No,
Hands in
but
the
if I had-
air,
but
the
I
whole
will say,
thing
and I
is
brought
No, but I'm
scary
saying-
as hell. The
I'm not
whole
the hands
thing.
up, don't shoot narrative that they were saying Michael Brown's hands were up and then he was shot. That is not what
But I
happened.
can show you
No,
the Tulsa,
no.
his hands are up and was gunned down by a woman
Right.
in broad daylight.
Okay.
I think both
I
of you
mean,
have great points
yeah.
in this. I
They're
want
all
to bring it
through
back
this each
to your main
Let's go back to the question.
The main question, right?
Yeah,
The main question was, how do we talk about this stuff?
But that's the point
Without, how do we talk about unbiased?
Okay.
But that's what, hold on, that's what I'm pointing out. This is where the disparity.
the first thing.
Dee, what I'm saying is we're at the crux of the issue right now. Because on one hand, we're saying it's okay for Black Lives Matter to go around saying, hey, there's systemic white racism against black people. And that's okay to say.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, hard evidence of systemic violence that's happening from within one race that is
systemic violence.
well, see, you rolled your eyes automatically,
because
and you're
it's not systemic, it's violence. That's interpersonal.
Wait a
That's
minute.
not
When 60,
systemic.
70, 80% of the violence that being committed on a public transit system is being committed by black males under the age of 30,
But how is that
Okay.
systemic, David?
that's systemic.
David.
They talk about
systemic
systemic as in
because
they
it's
talk about it as in the
used
government, as in
The systemic
Who
good is over the
uses
majority.
the train system? Then you'd have to go and say, okay, David, one of your problems with your statistics, and I hate your guy, you know I do.
It's not.
The statistics
distracted.
you use are beyond
They weren't his
flawed.
statistics.
Okay.
If you are here and in on this conversation live, be sure to drop your statistics
Yes,
from your place
please.
of your
any statistics. You'd have to look at one, who rides that train? At what hours are the trains being ridden? You'd have to look at what races. You'd have to look.
if you're in a
fine with
black
all
community,
that.
there's more black people
There
on
are
the train,
more
therefore
black
more
people.
black
Okay,
women.
more
And-
black
I'm
men.
fine with all that. And if the
We're all
videos
looking
show
at where the
that,
train is going.
if the videos show that the train car is full of black people and there's black people attacking black people, I think the public ought to know that. I think the public needs to know what's happening in the public transit system.
That's fine, but what you're saying then is that that's not how the media and the media of how you're presenting it then does it. And then
No, you're
tells the
right.
narrative. Because you're then saying it
But
as a racist.
Because if it was bands of white people, even though whites are the majority of the population,
I can't express how we want this type of conversation on our pages. We want this. This is what
This
we're
is what we
driving for, and we see how we're laughing and we see how we're having a good time. And even though we,
When
the moderators
divide is real here. I can
Look
feel,
out.
divide, yeah.
I can feel the energy just boom and then going straight up.
I mean, we're used to calling the balls and strikes in these conversations, but when we get into it, we're getting into it. We're getting
And this is
dirty.
real.
Good question, sir.
I'm gonna have to ponder on this one.
We'll be right back. So this is like an after hours. I mean, like a first for real, and I want to post this. I really do, because I think this is a healthy dialogue that needs to take place, because it is a subject that obviously both sides are like really passionate about. And the idea of the whole show is to say, can we have these real conversations that people are passionate about without turning into jerks?
And it needs
Right.
to happen. I think in person is honestly
Yeah.
so much easier.
Yeah, it is. It is. It gets very difficult in text because you can't read body language and all
Right.
that kind of stuff, and you read into it, you know, your own meanings and all that kind of stuff, you know, and it is difficult. And the whole concept of the show is that right here, right now, this is the intro to the funnel.
Yeah.
This is where it all begins. And so I think this is a dialogue we need to have. So, you know, with that said, I've experienced it, and this is not a big hardcore topic for me by any means, right? But I've definitely experienced it many times over. I mean, I had my business picketed banned. I mean, like, y'all know me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know my personality. I think y'all know me well enough to know where I stand on racial issues, right? But my beginning point in this journey was way back with the Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman trial. And I was just looking at the evidence and responding to it in what I felt was a logical, reasonable way.
Right.
Right? I wasn't trying to take sides or anything else. I was just saying, here's my thoughts on the data and all that sort of thing. I was called racist was just a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Right?
I had the same thing.
That was like nothing. I mean, I literally had a guy call for a ban on my business. And he was promoting it, like sharing it in the African American community, that my business should be banned because of my views. And I'm like, what the hell have I said that's racist? I'm like, I'm literally just putting evidence and data out there and calling for an objective opinion on this. Why is that racist? Why can I not pose this topic? And to David's point in that, and his question that he posed in that segment was, I mean, I absolutely hands down experienced it. Like off the charts experienced it. To where you can't talk about it. You cannot confront any issue. If I bring up anything that looks like I'm calling a minority into question in any way, shape, or form, I'm a racist.
Even your car accident.
Yeah, even my car accident. Well, I'm like, my wife gets hit by, and I name a country. My wife gets hit by an illegal immigrant from Mexico who has no insurance. Yay, open borders, like let's bring it on. And everybody's like, oh, you hate brown people. And I'm like,
There's racial inferences drawn where there wasn't any.
I'm like, I didn't even know Mexico was a race. I'm like, you know, one of my closest friends, who I spent years on a radio show with, is a Mexican national. He's white and nerdy as they come. I'm like, in fact, I didn't even see the guy. I literally don't even know what he looks like. But you have me hating brown people. I'm like, and you're actually the racist in this process. Because you're the one assuming, based on my color of my skin, that I have racial motivations. That's racist.
Yep.
So you're just worried about that it was an uninsured vehicle,
right?
From a different country. You could have
give a crap less.
Complaining if it was.
You're from Canada, right? You're a white nerdy accountant.
Oh, I get really militant when a Canadian rear-ends my ass.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Now wait a minute.
You wish
you live in Houston.
rear-end your ass.
Yeah, I get accused of something. Did you like get rear-ended in the ass?
If you lived in Seattle, it'd be different.
In Virginia, where I lived, it would have been a Canadian uninsured. So yeah.
So look. So to tie it back to the.
Are we ready to go on the?
It's recording. It's recording.
We have been recording.
Oh crap! To tie it back, I have absolutely experienced what.
Free flowing.
Yeah, I've absolutely experienced what David's talking about. That true, false, it almost, that part doesn't matter. It's like, is there a systemic issue in race? It's almost a side point to say, regardless, if I bring it up, I'm automatically a racist. If I try to talk about it, I'm a racist. There's no possibility in today's society where I can discuss any issue where I'm calling out a problem, any kind of issue at all, with any race or minority without, well, you're just a racist. That's the go-to immediate.
But Joe, I get anti-Semitism on the site, and I get LGBT drama queen mom on it.
Well, but let's stay on the topic for a second. I know Steve has a book in, so he's been waiting.
I was gonna delve deeper.
Woo!
If you want.
How deep can we go? Well, how long are we going for?
So do we go deeper and then we book in?
Yeah, let's go deep.
Delve deeper and then book in.
So
I mean, I'm just counting the minutes here because it's
I don't
one of those
find
things where
I don't think I manage you pretty well. I have enjoyed your company. I don't think any of you are racist. I think for me, the bigger picture and the biggest frustration with racism and talking about racism is you can change data, you can look at it however you want. Is crime by black offenders higher in Metropolis? Yeah, absolutely. Why? I mean, that's where I'm coming from. Why?
Because they were placed there?
No, not just, I mean, it goes beyond that, but yes. But you look at how people of color have been portrayed for political gain. Look at the 80s elections. I mean, it was centered around black crime. And there's, I mean, if you take an education class.
War against drugs, bro.
You can look, if you take an education class, they teach you that teachers have bias, okay? They expect less from minority students. And you can argue all day long, well, that's because statistically they score less. People meet the expectations you have for them. I mean, that's the way it is.
There's truth to
Okay,
that.
so my position and my passion with this whole topic comes from, we have a lot of generations of damage that has been done by perception, by stereotypes, even though none of you are racist. You may not understand or see, and I will say I didn't always feel this way, but I have some wonderful black friends, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I've read a lot about it. But people meet the expectations you set. So this isn't just a problem within white communities expecting black people to be more crime prone. Black communities expect it from themselves. They believe they are more prone to crime than white people. That's wrong.
Right.
And that's why this continues. So when I see narratives or data spun to make it look like black people are just so much more crime, it perpetuates it. It continues this belief.
And I knew that's where you're going. This is the fundamental disagreement, okay? This is where, as a friend, if Joe is doing something to harm himself, I'm not going to try to make Joe feel better by telling him what he's doing to harm himself is something you should keep doing.
No, but should you highlight his weaknesses and people just happen to look at him?
Let me finish the point. This is where it gets hard to hear, because you have these valid points, and I want you to hear, they are valid. But my point is, we are not even allowed to say what is happening, and I am not ever for keeping under wraps facts from the public on the basis of how it might affect somebody. Facts don't care about your feelings, and you never make anybody better by pretending like something, a condition that exists, that's killing people, that's causing women to be raped. And here's the reality. Let me give you that one example. This is another crime statistic. There are some years, I believe it's 2013 and 2015, the statistical rate for white on black rape was 0. 0. It happened so infrequently, the statistical number was 0. Meanwhile, black on white rape was between 12 and 36,000. Okay? Now, I want to preface all this, and I'm asking for, let me flow a little bit, okay? This is all under the umbrella, because for some reason, we've talked about this before. If I sat here and said, hey, we all know that 85% of the violent crime is committed by men, he's not upset by that. You're not upset by that. I'm not upset by that.
Because it doesn't follow you around or affect your daily life.
I know, but the point is, it's still, I'm a man.
It doesn't matter. It won't affect you the way it does.
Sheridan, but the point is, it doesn't matter. The fact is, I'm a man, and just because you cite the fact that 85% of all violent crime is done by men doesn't reflect negatively on me. I know that the majority of men who commit those violent crimes, or the number of men who commit those violent crimes, represent a small sliver of the male population. I think it's the same way if you talk about white criminals. That's a small sliver of the white population. Black criminals are a small sliver of the black population. Yes. All of these other inferences you're making from my argument, I'm not making. And this is what I'm seeing as the big roadblock to people hearing the facts. Because you seem to process it as, if I say 90% of all interracial violent crime is committed by blacks, that somehow is an inference towards blacks are more prone to violence.
But
let me finish. No, you did say that. That's an argument you made.
This is a different conversation, but I feel like that's...
I know, but my point is that it's the inferences that people focus on and not the actual argument. The actual argument is, this is what's happening. Let's address it. Let's find out the reasons why. If it comes to pass, I mean, you may well be right, that the overwhelming majority of the black on white violent crime is being done because of economic conditions, or it's being, whatever it is. But you cannot, and I made this point to you in the group, for me to say that all black on white violent crime is fueled by race or racism would be every bit as ignorant as you to say it's not happening at all.
No, I don't think it's not happening. I'm not.
That's my point. Let's get to, because where that could possibly lead is how much of the violence that's happening. We know that 40% of all police officer deaths are at the hands of a black male suspect.
36%.
Okay, 36%. The point is, based on whatever those numbers are, because those numbers, that was from 2015, they've gone up since then in the whole Black Lives Matter thing. But that's fine, I'll go with 36%. We still agree that that is nearly 3 times the prevalence of the black population.
And I can argue they get pulled over twice as more.
Hold on.
Oh, that was a good question, man.
Stay tuned.
I wonder what they're going to say to that one. Do you suffer from chronic back pain? There is a solution to the suffering. The Body Mechanics, an orthopedic and medical massage focused practice that specializes in helping clients work through and overcome musculoskeletal injuries and chronic pain. By applying our science-based concepts through the art of massage therapy techniques, we can help you eliminate that pain. At the Body Mechanics, we take it as our responsibility to provide our clients with the highest level of care. We take time to get to know you, your history, and your obstacles, and most importantly, your wellness goals. We help you meet your goals through skillfully applied advanced massage therapy techniques and recommending self-care routines to improve overall well-being. Come in today and let the Body Mechanics apply our years of training and expertise to soothe away your aches. Mention this ad and receive our functional movement assessment for free, a $35 savings.
See, this is where, hold on, this is where it takes all the details.
This is a bullshit conversation.
From that point, from that point, you would then have to make the point that the black arrest rate is disproportionate to the number of crimes reported. And what we actually find is they're underrepresented compared to the number of crimes, and this is from crime victimization surveys, and you need to understand what that is. That means Steve was the victim of a violent crime, okay? Steve tells the police, it was a black guy that hit me over the head with a wrench, right? Now, for that not to be true, Steve would have to be so devoted to a political narrative that he's willing to lie about who the suspect was. So we're talking about the number of crimes reported where the victim reported who the suspect was compared to the number of actual arrests made for the crime. Blacks are the only group that are underrepresented. Whites are overrepresented. Hispanics are overrepresented. If Hispanic was reported, and I'm making up the numbers now, I don't know what they actually are, but if a Hispanic suspect was reported in 20% of the muggings, Hispanic arrests are actually 23%.
But how is that possible if majority of the prison population, if they're overrepresented in prison?
Because the number of crimes reported is disproportionately black. It speaks to a problem that exists within the black community.
No, it's not. It's based upon conviction.
Thank you.
It is based on, but that's my point, Steve.
Okay.
Wait, hold on, draw the line.
I want to delve deeper, and you can correct me. You probably know way more about this than I do. They have recognized that there is an issue with jury pooling and how disproportionately things are charged based on how somebody appears, whether it be minority, age, gender, race, whatever. And it has been addressed, and it is something they are working on. But you can take a white man, a black man, same criminal background, same everything, same charge. The black man is going to be they're going to be charged much more and much more.
We've discussed that.
So then
you know why?
You get your data from conviction.
But you know why that is.
So how is that right?
Let me tell you why that is.
Stereotypes.
Because, no, it's not stereotypes. Because the number
All right, guys, hang on.
the number of repeat arrests.
Hang on, guys. So, kind of wrap up the concessions.
You know,
Yeah, don't forget our bookend. He's been waiting.
Concessions and bookend content here. So bookend would be appropriate before concession closing comments. Would that be right?
Sure. I've had about 5, almost 6 iterations of how I wanted to book in this conversation. And all I can say is I'm going to wing it now, and everybody here knows that I can wing it better than anybody. I'm going to say this on the benefit of everybody who's listening and everybody on this panel and everybody in the audience. This is a truth.
I think he looked at you.
I am in no position to dictate policy. I can go through the statistics and have 15, 20 minutes of non-substantive blah. This is what I've heard for the last 20 minutes. Okay?
Thanks.
Agree. Now, that's as far as I'm gonna go with this, because all of y'all are still my friends. If y'all hate me, I'll get over it. The thing is that I am in no position to dictate policy upon the black community, the Hispanic community, the Jewish community, any way you want to break this stuff up. What upsets me the most is that we can sit around for 20 minutes and blah. about statistics and this, that, and the other, and go over it 3 or 4 different times. That's fine. But what I want to get to is a solution. I walk onto the metro train and there's nothing but black people on that train. Do you think that's going to affect whether or not I walk off that sucker or not? No. What it's going to take is me sitting with my citizens, my friends, my people in my city. I do not care. If somebody walks on that train and does something stupid, they're going to have to get past me to get to you, anybody in this room. They're going to have to kill me to get to you. That is a fact. And until we start boning up and we start ponying up to the fact that race is not a social, refuse it, reject it. Until we start rejecting the narrative that's perpetuating discussions like what we just had, which is, I would say 20 minutes of blah was constructive, but it's been had before. And the people that are elected to office are not there to solve the problem. They are there just to reap the benefits of the chaos. And until we start stepping up as individuals and saying, you're going to have to crawl over me to get to you or anybody else in this room with words, actions, agendas, anything like that. Until that is, we're never going to solve this problem.
I like you.
I'm done.
So here's the disparity, because
We're gonna wrap up. 1 minute across and wrap, or you want to wrap?
Wrap.
We're down to. My battery's dead. Down. Yeah.
Say good night.
well,
So,
we can
like,
keep talking.
Yeah.
Good
So,
night, Daisy.
let me do this. I want to wrap up from a segment standpoint because I want to be able to publish this, but I want to continue this conversation as much as anybody wants to hang out and continue it. I think it's ironic because I hear what you're saying, and I'm very much of the same mindset of like everybody just back and forth griping and where's the solution. It's like why I quit listening to talk radio.
Agreed.
It's just nonstop griping and never a solution. So I 1,000,000% get that. But I'm going to marry it to David's point to say that I believe you can't get to a solution. You can't possibly find a solution if the two parties aren't willing to address the topic without vitriolic and hyperbolic, you're a racist!
Right.
Where the hell did that come from? Wait a minute, I'm just trying to discuss these stats that I'm concerned
and the
about.
constant deviations from the facts.
Right.
Forget
So-
all the reasons it could be. That's all speculation. The fact is the fact.
Exactly. So I want to say here's a fact, and I don't know the stats like David does, but I'm just going to make up something. I'm going to say
I'll concede. You want a concession, real quick? I'm interrupting, but I want to concede. I know the stats are very difficult to come by. That's part of the problem. Okay.
Yes.
So there are some
A lot of
questions regarding to the stats. We need to have a more forthcoming.
So,
Well, I
so look,
think-
I'm
I
going to
think we
wrap
need
up.
to
Hang
get
on, let me wrap up.
beyond
I'll
this
wrap up so we can take it home. My point is to say, I really want to see it where we can all embrace the idea that truth is the goal.
Yes.
Right? And to say, let's just look at the facts without start labeling people as racist and all this stuff. And from there, as best we can, we'll nail down these are facts, these are not. And from there, we can start talking about why the problem exists, what the causes are, all that sort of thing. But dang it, let's get on the same page where we stop labeling and blaming and naming and categorizing people with all these vitriolic, hateful, titles, and then we'll get to the solution. So
Find what we can.
you can't exactly. That's fine what we can get to. So that's that's my take, and that's the heart of the show.
David, I've decided since you're part of the Libertarian Party. In the end. No.
We gotta wrap up, Steve. We gotta wrap up. All right, we're out.
Well, this next song is called Where Have I Gone? And it's actually not out yet, but it is planned to be released on my first EP. Okay. Recognize myself someday, 'cause when the world is always changing, what would be left of me? I can't help it, I'm childish, and I do as I please. My memories can't find me, 'cause I was half asleep this whole time, and when I blinked a whole day went by. Now I am rewinding to know how I felt, but where have I gone? Gone? Where have I gone? Where have I gone? I'm afraid of songs, 'cause when everyone I know is gone, who would miss me? I'm the cig that was thrown out, and I burnt down these trees. My memories can't find me, 'cause I was half asleep this whole time, and when I blinked a whole day went by. I'm rewinding to know how I felt, but where have I gone? Where have I gone? Where have I gone? Where have I gone?
Another phenomenal song. This girl's awesome. You guys got to look for an up-and-coming star. This is not even anywhere, so the only place you're going to find it is on the Art of Dispute YouTube channel for right now. But you're coming out with an EP. When's that coming out?
It's still not planned yet.
Still not planned yet. You're just going to have to hang out.
Better start
just going to have to watch it. Yeah, follow her and subscribe to her on our YouTube channel. We'll see you guys next week.